Hello, and welcome to what I'm guessing might be your first introduction to the Mac world. If so, thanks for watching, and in this video tutorial, what we're going to cover is probably the first thing you're going to need to get a sense of when you start using a Mac, which is how to drive it and use the input devices. Input devices are defined as a keyboard, a mouse, or a trackpad. The trackpad could be built into a laptop, or it could be a freestanding trackpad that Apple also sells. In this tutorial, we will cover the trackpad specifically. So once you've gotten your Mac set up and you've gotten to the desktop here, I'm going to go to the Apple and go to System Preferences. Okay, System Preferences opens up here, and this is an area that lets you sort of set up many of the settings for how different applications or devices behave on the Mac. So the first thing is we'll go to Trackpad here. Now that we're in the Trackpad area, notice that I'm going to go to the point and click area. And depending on which operating system, your options here may look a little different, but I'm only going to talk about the few that really are the most important to be aware of to start with. So if you're new to a trackpad, the first thing to be aware of is that the entire trackpad is also a button. So you can actually depress anywhere on the trackpad as a button in order to click. This first option, tap to click, means that, first let me demonstrate what a click is. You might be able to hear this where I'm actually clicking, where you hear the sound. That means you actually depress the keyboard a bit and you hear the click sound. With tap to click checked, that just means you can tap on the keyboard without having to actually depress it and get that click sound, like this video tutorial is demonstrating in the window here. The next item, secondary click. Secondary click is Apple's terminology for the right click. You might notice that there are not two buttons on the trackpad. If you're coming from a PC, you might be more used to having two physical buttons. So in order to achieve a right click, there's a couple different ways you can do that. First of all, as this says, tap or click with two fingers. So if you can watch the video tutorial here, if you just tap with two fingers, you'll get a right click menu depending on what item you're actually right clicking on. Another option is to set up the right click in the bottom right corner. Now if you watch the tutorial, you can see that by tapping or clicking in the bottom right, you get the right click menu, and similarly on the bottom left corner. I'll set mine back up for two fingers. One other right click option that you should be aware of is the control click. So for example, if I hold the control key on my keyboard and tap or click, I get a right click menu, for example here on the desktop. So sometimes in the Apple world we say control click, which is synonymous with a right click. The control click will work at any time, even if you turn off all of these secondary click options. So there you go, the control click still works. The last item here, which is particularly useful if you have it available in your point and click section of the trackpad window, is the three-finger drag. So if you have this option and you check it, notice how the video tutorial is demonstrating. With three fingers on the trackpad, you can grab an object and move it around. Without that item checked, you just have to click and hold and drag around. So the three-finger option is pretty useful if you have it. Lastly is the tracking speed. This just determines how responsive really your mouse is. So you can see that I have to actually move the mouse here a number of times across the screen with a slow speed, but with a fast speed I can do one drag and get fully across the width of the screen there. Now I'm going to go to the scroll and zoom area to quickly just point out one feature that's very handy if you're not familiar with it. That is, if you open any sort of window that you're able to scroll in, it could be in any given application. But if you're able to scroll within a window and you place your mouse anywhere in that window, or on that window I should say, you can simply use two fingers on the trackpad like the video tutorial is demonstrating and drag up or down and that controls the scrolling. Very useful.